Good evening. This is the July 6, 2017 meeting of the Monroe Planning and Zoning Commission. It is 7:01 p.m. We are in Town Council chambers. Please rise and join with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Commission introduce themselves, please, starting on my right.
Jonathan Formicella, alternate.
Leanne Ambrosi, Commissioner.
David Townsend, Vice Chairman.
William Porter, Chairman.
Paul Lisi, Commissioner.
Michael Riley, Secretary. Will Agresta, Planner.
Scott Schatzline, Land Use Group Director and Town Engineer.
Rebecca Wood, Recording Secretary.
Thank you. General public participation. Is there anyone who would like to address the commission on an issue not related to one of the agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. General appointments, we have none. Item number 5.
Make a motion that we move into executive session to anticipate relative to pending litigation for RA 2016-06, file number 981E, Kimball Development, et al. Versus Monroe Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as RAA 2016-07, 982E, Solely Engineering, LLC versus Monroe Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second to enter into executive session. Call the roll.
Formicella, yes.
Ambrosi, yes.
Townsend, yes.
Porter, yes.
Lisi, yes.
O'Reilly, yes.
It's unanimous. I'd like to invite Town Attorney Jack Fracasini to join us, as well as Town Planner Will Agresta. Gentlemen, we're going to have a very, very brief executive session. I'm going to ask that you just step out into the lobby for about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Jack, can we turn the recordings off?
Yes. Video as well.
Do they all know they can come back? Scott,
Yeah,
they know they can come back?
yeah. At least I think there it is.
No?
Looks like it's picking up.
Okay. So,
We're ready to reconvene.
okay, Rebecca, you're good?
I think we need to make a motion.
Will, you're good?
Yep.
Okay, we're back in session.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the meeting agenda to include a discussion of the, an action relative to pending litigation.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah. We need 4 votes.
Just with the seated,
Yeah, we need 4 to 5.
Leon? Start with
Ambrosi,
Leon.
yes.
Townsend, yes.
Porter, yes.
Lisi, yes.
O'Reilly, yes?
Okay, so the agenda has been amended to add, call item 5A. Now,
I'd like to make a motion to grant Attorney Fracasini the authority to enter motions in Bridgeport Superior Court relating to 2 cases, RAA 2016-06, file number 981E, and RAA 2016-07, file number 928E. To withdraw.
to accept the withdrawal.
To accept the withdrawal of the resolution.
Okay. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Ambrosi, second.
All right. Any discussion on this? This is just to allow Attorney Fracasini to act on behalf of the commission to accept the withdrawal of the appeals on the 2 noted cases. There's no further discussion. We'll call the roll, starting with
Ambrosi, yes.
Townsend, yes.
Porter, yes.
Lisi, yes.
O'Reilly, yes.
Okay. Moving on to public hearings. Item number 6, SCP 2017-01, file number 1584A, 7187 and 431 Webb Circle. This is reconvened from June 8, 2017, and it was postponed on June 22nd, 2017. And I Mr. Bjorklund walking in the door, so we're gonna wait a minute. Mr. Bjorklund, you're up. Okay, SCP 2017-01. Will, any new exhibits?
Exhibit 24, June 27th, architectural plan and gazebo plans from the applicant. Exhibit 25, updated plan set by the applicant. Exhibit 26, updated town engineer comments. And Exhibit 27, updated town planner comments. That is all.
Okay, and for the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Dave Bjorklund. I'm president of the firm Spat Bjorklund Associates. We have offices here in Monroe, and I'm a professional engineer registered in the state of Connecticut. At the last meeting, I think we got through most of the major issues that are concerned with this application. I had requested that we leave the hearing open so that it would give Scott a chance, who wasn't here, to review the plans, because we had modified them over certain issues, and he had not had a chance to look at them or review them, so I thought it was only fair to give Scott a chance to review the revised site plan, which he and I met, and we did revise the site plan, and he has commented on that. The other major item that we left the hearing open for was to provide the commission with an architectural detail of the proposed building. We were able to find an architect, David Ball, who was in town here, who did agree to provide an architectural detail, a schematic design of the proposed pavilion, and that's up on the screen now. Commission wanted to get some information on the height of the building, how the building was going to look, and how it was going to operate. I think this satisfies that. Will Agresta, in his comments, had a couple of questions on the building and on the design. One of them was what will the shingles be, or the roof color, and it's going to be an asphalt shingle that is going to be colored brown, similar to what is shown. The building is proposed to be on a slab, a concrete slab. As you can see, there will be seating within the building. There's not going to be any lighting surrounding the building, so that is not a detail that we have provided. Will Agresta's other request was for details of the building column foundations and ground surface treatment under the pavilion. We haven't provided any detail on the foundations. We will be providing that information at the time we file for a building permit. I think that's a little premature to ask for the foundation footings at this point in time.
But it is going to be a concrete slab, you said?
It's going to be a concrete slab, yes. And as I indicated, whenever we do something here, we have to twist a few arms, and I don't want to twist the arm of our structural engineer for a detail that really is going to be made available at the time we get a building permit. With regards to Scott's comments, I think most of them, the informative one with regards to the wetland agent approval, Scott and I had discussed that. The other thing was, we had a meeting on the revisions to the site plan in order to make it, do some value engineering on it. And on our original plan, we had, the parking lot was bigger. We have cut that back to phase the parking. When the second phase will be done, we'll detail that on the final revisions to the site plan. We did have boulders along the edge of the parking lot, and we had some buffer plantings. I think I misunderstood. I thought we were going to eliminate the boulders and the buffer planting between the parking lot and the street, and we're in agreement that we'll replace those buffer plantings that were between the street line and the proposed parking lot. We are going to be clearing some trees in the area there to create some sight line, so I think adding a buffer there is going to be important. Other than that, I think that hits all the items that we left open at the last hearing.
Did you say you wanted to leave this hearing open again
No.
today? Oh, okay.
No, I think we provided all the information the commission needs to make a decision. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, Jonathan, we'll start with you.
No questions.
Leon?
No questions.
I'm good.
No questions.
No questions.
I just have some open comments regarding the sign, the freestanding sign. Has that been resolved, Will?
No, like, we have Tom Elbogen address the sign. He'll give you a little history of it. I forgot that was an outstanding.
I think that, well, before we move on, let's just make sure we're done with you.
You're never done with me.
We'll give you a little reprieve, maybe.
Okay.
I think we're good with the pavilion plan, the plantings, and the 2 phases for the parking. Okay, I guess the only thing that is still in question is the sign issue.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. Tom Elbogen, 52 Webb Circle, Monroe, Director, Webb Mountain Discovery Zone. The current sign that we have in place at the Discovery Zone is greater than, I believe, the 10 square foot minimum of the current, within the regulations of the current zone. This sign was installed by the town in 2007. So it's been in this, at the park for roughly 10 years now, coming up in September. We understand that there are regulations that need to be observed, but we also want to request and understand this is a park and that people need to find the park. In some cases, people come a long, long way to find the park. And, you know, we think it's important to make sure that there's a sign that has, you know, the ability to be seen, essentially.
But the town is not exempt from the zoning regulations, regardless of who put the sign up, how long it's been there. The town is not exempt from following its own rules and regulations. Sometimes they think they are, but they're not.
No, and I don't feel that that's, you know, my thought, Mr. Chairman, is as a park, is if the zone is not appropriate for a park, you know, that other parks have large, huge signs in this town. It's not an absolute hardship. We can change the sign.
How big is the sign?
It's a little more than 10 square feet. I've given,
11, or is it 20?
it's about, I would say it's about 12 12, 13. I've given Dave the dimensions. I don't know if we could break that out for you. I don't have that, but I can give you the exact dimensions in a few minutes. We can dig that out. But I think it's about 12 square feet or so, no more than 14.
And is it located within the setback wall?
Well, they're relocating it.
They
Right
are
now
now.
it's in the setback, but they need to relocate it. But it, I mean, I don't, on the plan, I don't think that would be 10 foot like it should be, but. Dave, do you know if your plan shows it 10 feet?
I don't believe so.
Mr. Chairman, from an aesthetic standpoint, we don't feel it's obtrusive. We understand the regulations are the regulations. Whether this is a, round peg in a square hole situation in which there may be some ability to recognize that this isn't necessarily, a typical situation, we would obviously appreciate you entertaining that.
Is the sign here in this photo?
That's correct.
Well, I'm familiar with the sign, and I don't think it's much over 10 feet, it may be 12. It's not
Well,
20 square feet.
We don't need an exact size of it right now. The commission will discuss that during
Okay.
deliberation.
All right,
The
thank
sign
you.
will have to be, the sign is being relocated as part of this project anyway.
Absolutely.
You have to make sure it's not within the setback.
Understood.
I have no other questions. Staff have anything?
No.
Anything else? What's the commission's feeling on this application at this point? Open or closed? Closed? Mr. Bjorkman, is there any reason why you would not want this application to be closed at this time?
Pardon, I didn't
Is there
hear.
any reason you would not want this application to be closed at this time?
No, there is no reason. I did find the size of the sign. It's 15.8 square feet.
15.8.
Mr. Chairman? I don't know if anyone wants to comment, but I don't think you gave an opportunity to anyone in the audience to comment.
Oh, that's, you're right. Thank you. Mr. Bjorkman?
That's the public and public hearings.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your consideration. Thank you.
All right, don't go away because you might be called back. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Is there anyone that has any general questions or comments? Now, Mr. Bjorkland, you may make your final statement.
We thank you for your consideration, and we would like to have the hearing closed and have the commission act on this application.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Hearing's closed. Item number 7. SUB 2017-01, file number 1261C, 36 Timothy Hill Road, Section 6, Pepper Street Business Park. We received a letter asking that we postpone this to July 20th, and the applicant is granting a time extension to the commission to postpone the opening of the public hearing. So that will be on July 20th. Item number 8, site development plan. We're not to read a public notice for site
There is
development.
no public hearing.
Okay.
Just me.
SDP 2017-02, file 12235 Corporate Drive, site development plan to occupy an existing warehouse building and add outdoor storage consisting of shipping containers in an industrial 335 Corporate LLC. Will, exhibits?
Sure. Exhibit 1, site development plan application with attachment. Exhibit 2, pre-plan base set. Exhibit 3, building official comments. Exhibit 4, fire marshal comments. Exhibit 5, architectural plan set. Exhibit 6, notice to Aquarium and Water Company and Connecticut Public Health, certified receipts and green cards. Exhibit number 7, fire marshal comments. Exhibit 8, town engineer comments. Exhibit 9, town planner comments. Exhibit 10, response to comments with attachments by the applicant. Exhibit 11, resubmission of site development plan applications for commission. Exhibit 12, updated plan set. Exhibit 13, updated town engineer comments. Exhibit 14, bond estimate form. Exhibit 15, updated town planner comments. And Exhibit 16, updated building official comments. That is all.
For the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Robert Sonicson. I work with Waldom and Associates. Our office is in Guilford, Connecticut. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. And I'm pleased to come before you tonight. If I can, I'm gonna, you can.
I just want to make a statement to the commission so that there's no confusion. This is a new application for 35 Corporate Drive. They currently have an approved application. They are coming forward with a whole new application rather than modifying the existing application. So this is a whole new game. Okay?
I think it's, we go back. That's my.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we are, okay. The chairman is certainly correct. The site plan for outside container storage at 35 Corporate Drive was approved by this Planning and Zoning Commission on April 6th, 2017. That plan, which I have a paper copy of it with me, as you'll recall, essentially all of the containers were located on the west or the rear side of the building.
Rob, could you use the mouse when you point, because we're on
Okay.
live video.
Okay.
We'll pick it up on this monitor.
Okay, so once again, the containers were located on both sides of the loading docks in the rear of the building and also between the loading docks on the rear of the building. And the total number of containers outside storage was approved at 86 containers. A total of 16 of them are 20 feet long and the remainder are 40 feet long. That's the standard for sea containers. Subsequent to that approval, a meeting was held at NBC Sports in their Stamford headquarters. And it was the first opportunity that I'd had to meet with the 6 or 7 people from NBC that are involved in this project. They were very pleased, obviously. They were really looking forward to coming to Monroe. They think that the facility will be great for them. But they had some issues with the container locations that had been approved from an operational perspective. And we had an opportunity to have a significant discussion regarding the container storage and the overall operation. And at that meeting, they also said, you can say who we are, it's NBC Sports. And that's NBC Sports Universal is the prospective tenant here. The vast majority of their equipment that will be stored in Monroe is going to support the Olympic Games. They have a long-term contract with the Olympics, and what they do is the containers are loaded and deployed in a 2 or 3 month period before the Olympic Games. They're transported within a week to 2 week period to the port that they'll be loaded onto ships and to travel to the Olympic venue. Since most of the equipment is broadcast equipment, it's electronics, and it's very valuable equipment, it will be stored in the climate-controlled warehouse building. So basically what they do is they bring the containers back in loaded with the material that they'd used for the last Olympics. They unload essentially all of the containers, except for a few of them which have things that don't need to be climate controlled. And they may leave them in the containers for an extended period of time. But most of the containers that are going to be stored on the site are going to be empty. They also indicated that essentially their entire operation is focused on the west side of the building. That's where all the containers are going to come in at the loading docks. Any trucks that come, they'll have FedEx deliveries of new equipment. They'll come to the loading docks behind on the west side of the building. And they said, we really want these empty containers to be as far away from where the operation is focused as possible, and we see that as being the east side of the building. This is a very quiet side of the building. The two entrances, the main entrance, we'll call it the main entrance, or the front entrance, is on the north east side of the building. There's also a secondary entrance on the southeast corner of the building. There are 2 access doorways on the east side, but there's really, they can come and go through those doorways, but there's very little activity that'll take place here, and that's the way they want it. They want the containers to be there in storage, ready for them, and they really didn't want them, in their opinion, interfering with their operation and the focus because of their activity. The vast majority of the truck traffic will come in, will back into the loading docks, will offload, and then will leave back without even coming around the building. We did provide, as we did in the last application, a 24-foot clear access primarily for emergency vehicles that can go around the entire building. There's plenty of room the way that we have it laid out. You can navigate around the building, but NBC doesn't really see that there's going to be very much traffic or activity on the front side of the building, or the east side of the building. So we came in and we modified our plan to comply with their operational desire. We still have the 20-foot containers in the northwest corner of the site, which is consistent with the previously approved site plan. And we have a total of 12 double-stacked containers at the far southwest corner of the site. That's a level area, and it's, once again, in their opinion, outside of their main activity area. So they didn't have a problem with locating them there. We've had discussions with town staff about locating some of them on the south side of the building, but what we found was that it's very narrow here, and the containers would have to be end stacked, and we really couldn't get very many in this area, but it would use up a lot of the parking spaces that we're using to meet the underlying zoning requirements for parking. So that didn't look like a good option to us. There's a flat level area in the southwest corner of the site, which has been looked at favorably. The rock outcrop ends, and then there's a level area in the corner. We've opted not to propose that in this application but that area could be explored further. What it would take would be a lot line revision, because this is the property boundary line. And also, there's some issues with the building setback line, which cuts right across the edge of the parking lot. So there are a couple logistical issues, and also there's some site grading that would have to be done over in that corner. So we wanted to keep the site changes down to a minimum. The site changes that we're proposing is a very small curb expansion down in this corner and a curb expansion in this corner, and that was so that we could get full width parking spaces and still have the turning radius for around the side of the building if they needed it. The proposal for the containers is very similar to the one that we had last time, in which in this case the containers are going to extend over the curb line in the front of the site by approximately 10 feet. If there's a level grassed area where the site lighting is immediately off of the curb line, and then the front of the site slopes off at a slope of about 2 to 1. We didn't want to do any significant grading in there, but we felt like we could use that level area, and we proposed to excavate it out and put a 1 foot thick layer of 3/4 inch gravel under the rear of the containers where they extend beyond the paved surface. And that was consistent with the approval that we obtained last time. That was the technique that we chose to use. What will happen is any rain that falls on the rear of the containers will drip down into the crushed stone and infiltrate into the ground. In discussion, there's some question, and we can still provide further detail, but in talking to NBC, there was a concern about whether the curb would have to be taken out. And I contacted their operation person, and they said, because one of the comments that came up from town staff was, if you take out the curb line back there, the way that the storm drainage works, there are 2 catch basins along the eastern edge of the pavement, one about here and one over in here, and the whole area behind this side of the building is graded to drain to those catch basins. And there was a concern that if we changed the geometry of things there, it would make it so that we wouldn't be able to get the storm drainage still going into those catch basins. What NBC told me in an email was that the containers don't sit directly on the ground. There are small pads at each of the 4 corners, so that and even though they look like they're sitting right on the ground, there's enough space under them, because you don't want them sitting on the ground because you want to get some air circulating under there. As a result, stormwater and rainfall will run right under them. And they said also that they elevate them another between 2 and 4 inches generally, with some additional pads that they sit on. And they felt that we could leave the curb in place, place the back end of the containers on that curb line, and just elevate the front. It's important for them that they're dead level, because they are going to be stacked too high, and they want them to be as stable as possible. One point that I wanted to point out here on this graphic is that all of the blue containers are double stacked. These 6, in order to keep the number at 86, we could have modified them in a different way, but what we opted to do was to just say these 6 are going to be single stacked units. So these are going to be 10 feet high, and the remainder of the containers are going to be double stacked, which makes them about 20 feet high. And the farther to the north you go, the more potential visibility that you have from Corporate Drive and out at the Pepper Street intersection. And so we wanted to keep them moved down as far as we could to the south. And we think that by having the 10-footers, 10-foot-high single stacked in this portion, it does a lot toward masking or the containers. Other new things here is all of these plants that are shown here are going to be new plantings. Essentially, all of them are going to be arborvitaes of different heights. Some of them are 10 to 12. Some of them are 6 to 8 feet. They're going to be planted up close to the top of the slope, and they'll fill in nicely with the existing vegetation that's on the slope. All of these circles are existing trees, and I was out there this afternoon, and I know that staff has been out there also, and right now there are some trees that are 30 or 40 feet high. They were planted in 1990 and they've gotten very tall. Most of them are deciduous, but there also are a fair number of existing fir trees. We're going to fill in, and we feel that by filling in the way we're filling in with this, with the vegetation, it's going to really help to minimize the visual access of these containers from anywhere on a public way. The other thing is that Corporate Drive is a private road, and it's going to remain private as a private road. We are going to plant, we're proposing to plant one, let me see, how do I zoom out?
Go up to the top.
Want me to do it
Yeah.
far enough?
Yeah, that's good. We're planting, there's a gap right here, and we're planting one additional street tree. The street trees are pretty full right now. And also, this is all autumn olive down in here. And this time of year, the visibility is really pretty well covered by the vegetation. I want to move to a couple of other things that we did in response to staff comments. I submitted a series of additional landscape plans. Will contacted me with regard to the condition of the landscaping around the entrances, and he asked if we could take a look at it and supplement the landscaping, and we submitted with our responses to the ART comments a series of proposed landscape plans. Let me see if I can find them. Maybe you can find them for him. Okay, I want to go through each one of these, so maybe we'll do this one first. That's fine. One of the issues that came up, or a question that came up from Will, was he wanted us to take a look at really what the constraints were with the containers as we had them located in the back of the building. And what we did was we backed a 50-foot trailer truck up to the loading dock and put the turning template on it. This is a new rendition because the first one that we submitted didn't have the containers actually located. As you can see by looking at this, it's very tight for that kind of a truck to operate with the containers along the back wall. So that was what we wanted to demonstrate by.
How does that affect this area?
Huh?
How does it affect the areas between the loading docks, which are higher grade than the loading docks?
Yeah, that area is an area that NBC sees as the place that the people who are going to be working here are going to park there and come in the back doors. And that also has a fairly good slope going down toward the back. Mentioned the, yeah, it really elevate the front of the containers quite a bit. Their feeling was there was going to be too much activity in that area, and they really didn't see that as being supportive of their operation. You know, that was their position. We said that we'd come back and, you know, try to gain approval for a layout that was really the one that they wanted here. The next drawing, okay, this is I don't think there it is. We did get an expansion. Our last plan had the interior office space expanded to 2,500 square feet. In the meantime, NBC came back and said that they wanted a break room or a conference room and a break room, and they also wanted to renovate the bathrooms that are there and put a men's room and a ladies' room in. There are 2 bathrooms on that floor, but they felt that they wanted to have it be a little bit more elegant, and so that was their plan, and it's part of this application. And they also wanted to have an interior computer server room and a proposed robot room. And I don't know what kind of robotics that they use, but it's part of their operation. It's not a very large space, but they wanted to include that in the interior modification. So this is a modification of the interior plan that was previously approved. And then the last 2 drawings, these are the colorized version of the plan for the rear entrance, or the southern entrance, which is really, at this point in time, you know, the building's been vacant. The owner would certainly have done you know, improvements to the landscaping, but we had our landscape architect draw up what we feel is a nice plan for the rear entrance, and also the next drawing is the treatment of the front entrance. There's more vegetation and there's some larger trees in this area, but this is really going to be and continue to be the main entrance to the building, and so we have added a significant amount of landscaping to dress up that particular part of the site. Now, if we go back to the site plan for just the ART comments that came through are primarily, we've responded to them. Scott has mentioned, he mentioned it during the consideration of the last site plan, and he's been consistent with this application. Using the strict turning templates for trucks at the entrance driveway of the site, in order to get a large trailer truck into the site, you do have to encroach into the outgoing lane of at the driveway entrance. And the suggestion or the comment was that the modifications be made so that that encroachment didn't take place. Our response to that comment is that this site has operated very effectively as a warehouse space for years when it was an active warehouse space, and that truck entrance and exiting from the site has never been a technical issue or a conflict, and the amount of traffic that's going to be generated by the site is extremely low. Most of the time, they're going to be on the order of 10, a maximum of 10 people, and it may go up to as many as 40 people when, during those short periods of time when they're really loading up and unloading the material. But there won't be a lot of driveway activity. The trucks won't be backed up waiting to get in. They won't be trying to get in and out at the same time. So we felt that, consistent with the last approval, that that amount of site activity wasn't really justified by the use that's being proposed. There's also a comment that came up that we're working on, having to do with the Office of State Traffic Authority, OSTA, and the question of whether they need to make a determination with regard to the change in use here. The building is over 100,000 square feet, and Scott had brought that up, and we have contacted OSTA, and we're working with them right now to have them make a determination. What it came down to is that NBC wanted us to pull a building permit for the interior improvements, and we F-worded it and found that we couldn't get the building permit until such time that there was a determination made by OSTA, and we're working on that right now. And the comment is that the approval should be contingent upon providing a certificate of determination from OSTA. I'm not certain whether they'll issue a certificate of determination. They, at least in conversation with our traffic engineer, have said that they may just say, we don't have any authority over this, but we will get something from OSTA to address that issue. I think I've covered most of Will's things, the issues, the comments from the ART. Let's see. He said that the full site plan will have to be revised accordingly, and it certainly will be. We'll include the architectural, the landscape architect's drawings in a regular plan set and make those revisions. But I wanted to get this in and be as responsive as I could to the comment that would come up with regard to that landscaping. I think that is everything that I wanted to comment on. There are a few other peripheral things that came up, such as we have committed to repairing the pavement on the site and repairing the pavement and the curbs on Corporate Drive as part of our application. It was part of our approval last time, and the staff wanted to be certain that we were committed to continuing that condition in this application, which is a separate application, and we didn't want to overlook the fact that we still are committed to all of the improvements that we proposed as part of the first application. Most of the things are shown on our new site plan. We still are showing the dumpster with the dumpster enclosure and landscaping up near the northwest corner of the site for additional screening there. So I think that we've simply, it's a modification, but it includes all of the commitments that we've made and the conditions of approval from the first approval, file 120.
You finished your presentation, I'll open it
Yeah,
up to the
that's
commission and see if anyone has any questions.
I'll probably think of something else, but that's all.
We'll have an opportunity to
That's all I
follow
can
up.
think of so far.
Jonathan?
How much wider would the entrance have to be to have the truck not go into the outgoing lane?
I would imagine that it would have to be 10 to 15 feet wider on either side. It would have to, you know, it would be, and I guess there are utilities in that area. There's a lot of landscaping in that area. And there's also, the driveway is sort of in a lower area, and all of the landscape islands along here, both north and, east and west of the driveway, are significantly higher. So there'd be quite a bit of site grading that would have to be done, and it would end up being, I think, a fairly significant effort. Once again, it's never been a problem before, and we don't see it as being a problem going forward. And so we've respectfully not included it as part of our application.
Right, it's not gonna be a very active site, is it, because it's used for the Olympics?
The
which-
Olympics every 2 years.
Right,
So there's going to be a year and a half that that things are going to be very quiet, and it'll just ramp up. But they need all of this space because there's a lot of equipment. And what they basically do inside, the inside is essentially all warehousing space, but there's also some areas up in the back by the loading docks where they will actually be getting ready, and they'll lay the stuff out and make sure that they have all the pieces of equipment that go into container number 47 or whatever. And then they'll back the container up to the door and load it up.
Does NBC Sports have similar warehouses where they do this type of thing?
I believe they do, but for whatever reason, they want to come to Monroe.
Okay. Well, the reason why I ask that is because they have certain they have a plan of attack when they need to load the equipment, bring it in, so that the entrance won't really be a problem because they have some type of training and experience to bringing the equipment in, and that won't be an issue.
They have complete control. The only thing that they don't have complete control over is like when UPS or FedEx comes. But they'll be operational all day, and that's only going to be a couple of trucks, once in a while. They have complete control. They own the containers, and when they want to move the containers, they hire someone to move them for them, and they have, like I said, complete control over when the drivers show up, and they know when they're going to be ready, and so it's a pretty tight operation. They've been doing it for quite some time, and they're really slick at it. So, yeah, and on a day-to-day basis, there's going to be, they did say that there will be 24-hour security. The hours of operation are going to be normal hours of operation. It's going to be a 5-day-a-week operation. They said that the hours may be a little bit longer right when they're doing the actual deployment and things like that, but it's not going to be a 24-hour operation at any time.
And my question about the traffic issue that coming out, as you said before, how many employees are going to work there? Not many.
They said that under normal circumstances, they're between 5 and 10, on a daily basis. They might ramp up to 40 during that short period of time when they're actually hitting the bricks. But once every 2 years, that's sort of it's a very short window, and it's still not going to be chaotic. They know how long it takes to do what they have to do. What they do is they load the containers, they bring them over a period of time to wherever the port is, down in New Jersey or wherever, and they unload them and stack them there until the ship is ready to be loaded. So, they know when the ship's going to be sailing, and they know how long it takes to load the ship. I find it fascinating. It's a very interesting, I love the Port of Long Beach and watching them operate in Baltimore and things like that. But they spend a lot of time scheduling things, so it, you know, they have to get things to the Olympics so that they can be set up and ready to broadcast, and they know that and what the requirements are to do that.
My only last question, you can't really answer for me, because you said you didn't know what the robot room was used for, but that was a...
I don't, and I didn't, you know, I probably should have asked them when it showed up on the architectural drawing, but I was more, you know, I was really focused on more of the site work, and I'm not as, you know, the location of the containers and what goes on inside is sort of their business, and so I just didn't ask them.
I don't know the answer.
Okay, Leon?
Okay, the problem I have is with the containers, the height. Because they're gonna be 20 feet up in the front of the building, and I don't see how you're gonna screen them so well.
They won't be, well, I was up there this evening, and if you stand right here, you can look from here and see the intersection at Pepper Street. If you move over to here, you can't see the intersection any longer. And so...
But the container's gonna be 20 feet high. Containers, by the time you put two on top,
Containers are
will be
20 feet high. The new arborvitaes that we're going to put in are going to be 10 to 12 feet and right next to them. So they won't completely obscure the containers. But we really don't think that, you know, once again, people driving, there's no trespassing sign down at the entrance. The only people that should be driving up Corporate Drive are people that have business at this location. And really, the frontage along Main Street is heavily vegetated. You can't see, you can see from up here, you can see the top of the tower at the plaza across the street, but just the top of the tower. You can't see anything on the ground. And so therefore, you can't see up here from the road either.
That's not really true. From the road, you can see this whole corner of the building. It is obscured with trees that kind of block it. But you get a good sense of that building, about that much of it, from the Pepper Street intersection.
And I guess that's one of the reasons that we wanted to keep the 10 feet high here, because these trees will obscure the first 10 feet. And as you move farther to the south, there's less visibility from Pepper Street.
My question is, like you're double stacking those, right? And I understand that you need more room in the back
Right.
to take the equipment off and everything like that. Why can't you, like, move some of them to the back there in the middle there, section where you are, and don't double stack them up here, so that at least you're down to 10 feet? I can understand what you want to do to make more room back there, but, you know, to double stack them, I mean, it's going to be hard to screen those.
They, one of the questions that came up fairly early on in our conversations was, and I think Will brought it up, he said, could they triple stack them? And they said operation, the way that they do it, they unload the bottom container. Actually, they unload the top container and put it on top of the bottom container empty. So that's just the way that they operate, but they don't want to stack them 3 high because it becomes awkward.
No, I don't say stack them 3 high. What I'm saying is, like, keep the front row to 10 feet high and then make some room in the back. We probably get a little bit more room. I understand what you're saying, but along that back wall in the center there.
Yeah, we do have 12 containers here in this corner.
Right,
We have 16 over here.
right.
This back row, based on that graphic that I showed you, was really tight for operations.
No, but what right against the wall of the building?
This corner isn't really
No.
good because everybody's coming around.
Right, but why right in the middle?
The middle, NBC felt like the employees were gonna wanna be parking as close to the building. There are two doors, one on each end here and here. And they thought that most of the people that were in the operational department would wanna park right here and come in these doors so that they'd be close to the, where they'd be coming in. And they were very negative to using that area for anything other than parking.
So you don't have anything that can show us these containers that,
Yeah,
what color are the containers gonna be, do you know? What color are the containers?
The vast majority of their containers, the NBC standard color is violet. It's light purple. And they have a few grays, but the vast majority are gonna be all one color.
So they wouldn't want to put any containers in the back at all over there in that area, is what you're saying?
They asked us to come to your commission and ask you for approval to place the containers in the front,
Right.
on the east side of the facility, so that they had the maximum operational flexibility where they were doing all of their work. And
But you see, it's hard for me to visualize when you don't see these containers up front. And like you said, they're violet. If they're not screened right, they're gonna stand out like a sore thumb. And, you know,
if,
that's why when we first went and agreed on it, we were on the point of putting them in the back, and we figured nobody would see them. Now it's up that they wanna move them up front, which I can understand that they want more room back there, I can understand that, but the part of it is screening them is what we were concerned about, well, I was concerned about, I should say.
right now, the firs that are growing, some of them are down lower on the slope, but all of these fir trees are at least 20 feet tall. Many of the deciduous trees are well in excess of 20 feet. So during this time of the year, when there are leaves on the trees, it's going to be very difficult to see any of the containers. When the leaves come off of the street trees and come off of the deciduous trees, we're hoping that the arborvitaes and expecting that the arborvitaes, and there are a lot of them, are going to really fill in. There may be some visibility of the top containers above them until they grow, but the arborvitaes are going to grow very quickly also. So we feel like we've done as good a job as we reasonably can to screen the containers to the greatest extent that we can. That's our, and that's the position, I can't be more candid with you. We went and they said, we really don't want the containers out and back. We see it as being an operational problem here. Please go to the commission and ask to relocate the containers to the east side of the building where they're out of our way and sitting there, and we're not worrying about a tow motor or somebody backing into them, because there's not going to be any traffic down there. And we said, yes, you're going to be a wonderful tenant, you're going to be a great asset to the town of Monroe. We're going to go and ask the Planning and Zoning Commission for permission to locate the containers as we have them shown on this plan.
Anything else,
I
Leon?
mean, I have nothing else really.
Dave?
I mean, I have the same concern, but I can't visualize it. I think I need to, just go out and see what it looks like so I can try and, because from the map, I can't get a sense for.
Do you have that rudimentary sketch loaded up?
No. 'Cause I mean,
Want me
this,
to go get it on the thing, Skip? No.
2 seconds.
No, it just, this is the best case scenario this time of year, you know, it's only gonna get worse in the fall and winter.
Right.
So, I mean, I'd wanna at least get a sense for it. As well. But I might have the same concerns they have.
Yeah, I have a few questions. So the containers are 20 feet high. How
Nine
tall
point-
is the-
9 feet 8 inches each, stacked too high, so
How tall is the building itself?
24 feet.
24 feet.
Plus they're already at how much off the ground? How much off the ground? Another 6 inches, another foot off the ground?
Oh, off the ground, it'll be, the curb is a standard curb height, which will be 6 inches off the
So
ground,
they're
so.
gonna go over the curb, so 8 or a foot.
Yeah, they will be, rough numbers, 20 feet tall.
So if you go look at the site and you see the top of the building, they're gonna be about 3 or 4 feet below that. top
That's
of the
correct,
building.
that's correct.
And the grade drops there quite a bit towards the road.
It does drop significantly down to where the septic system is. The farther south that you go, and we're running into another sort of logistical thing. We've located the containers as far south as we can without encroaching over the building line, because that would require a variance. So we shoved them down as far south as we could. There's much more vegetation down here, natural vegetation growing up to obscure it. But, well, I'll tell you, the landscape is in great shape. These trees are very healthy, and they're tall. So, and most of them are up toward the upper part of the slope. There's actually some of them that are located very close to where the back of the containers are going to be, and that they will obscure that end of the containers effectively.
And you're obviously losing out a lot of parking spaces, and which, I don't know how that,
Yeah, the parking calculations are on the plan. It meets your warehouse standard for the percentage of the warehouse. Then there's a higher level for the staging area, the operational area, and then the office has a little bit of a higher use. So we're 1 or 2, maybe 1 parking space over what we calculated to be the minimum number for this use based on your zoning regulations.
okay. I assume NBC has a lease for this, they're leasing the space, and these containers are gonna be there for the life of they're not temporary. They're not there for, if there's a 5-year lease, they're not there for 6 months. They're there for the life of the tenant.
They're not moving out. Everything that we've said, these containers, this is the number that they have in their operation now. This is the number that they're going to be using for the Seoul Olympics. And they're not going to be coming and going. You know, it's not, at one point in time I thought that maybe they'd be doing like, you know, Thursday night baseball or something, but from what I understand, NBC really is going to use this facility. Monroe is going to be their Olympics facility for storing all of the equipment for broadcasting the Olympics.
And none of them could go indoors, I assume. None of them can go indoors, I assume.
They need the warehouse space because everything that goes into the containers essentially is going to be in the warehouse space. And they're all, you know, I've seen pictures, I've looked at pictures, they're all shrink wrapped and on pallets and things like that. That's the way their warehousing operation really works.
And just one last question. You mentioned that was a private road.
Yes.
In a sense, that's like a driveway, or?
It's a private road, it's not a town road.
It was,
But it's still frontage, it's still,
yeah, it originally was a subdivision intended to be a public road. It hasn't been completed, and this is the only lot that ever got developed. Since then, the town, your commission has adopted commercial private street standards, and this street would be eligible for that. And in order to take advantage of locating that upper quadrant of sea containers as well as ones that were going to be in that rear corner. By keeping it a private road, it allows the setback to be relaxed.
That was my question, so this doesn't comply with, if it was a typical public road? The building, the parking, the setback,
Right.
Yeah,
it wouldn't comply
It
with
wouldn't.
that?
the setback line, when we first started, we were looking at the setback line based on the public road standards, and the setback line came very close to the north wall of the building. But then, looking at the private road standard, it's a 50-foot building line, which sort of passes through this portion of the site. So it was a significant reduction in the building line. Front yard building line, that's the front yard.
Thank you.
All the others are 50 feet wide.
I made a site visit out there when the application first came up, February or March.
April was the approval.
Yeah, when it first came before us, there was no vegetation, and you could see the building, the roof lines of the building from the intersection. You couldn't really make out what it was, except the building. It was just, and you can only see about the northern third. The rest of it was pretty well obscured by whatever vegetation was there. I don't know that you'd be able to tell there were containers there, and it was just the building, to tell you the truth.
And that was
in
the wintertime.
in the wintertime, yeah. You've been out there more recently. Do you think this?
I go there
screening is
every
adequate?
day. That's how I go home. That's how I come, I go home. You can, all year round, you can clearly see this portion
Right,
of
the
the
top
building.
part of
No,
that
you,
building.
well, you see the windows, and you know it's a building. There are trees that do block part of that view, and pierce the roof as well. This is pretty well obscured right now. In the wintertime, this opens up a little bit, but it doesn't take it all the way to the end. I mean,
You're a long ways up the hill there. That's quite a bit up that hill. I mean, I'm pretty confident that you'd be hard pressed to know there's containers there, or it's just a building there.
well, the containers
From the
won't go in the
distance
building.
from 25. You can, I mean, I wasn't really sure it was a building, what kind of building it was. Was it an office building, a warehouse? You could, it's so far away, it just looks like white.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Yeah, I'll just voice my same concern. You know, our regulations clearly call for screening of any outdoor storage, screening from adjacent properties or adjacent streets. I do have some concerns over the fact that the containers are 20 feet high. Your arborvitaes are downslope 2 to 4 feet from the base elevation of the containers, and they're only 8 to 12 feet high. I don't know how high an arborvitae will grow, but, you know,
They're fast growers, and they'll grow to 30 feet. This is really the largest nursery stock that's readily available.
well, you call out 3 or 4 different size
Right.
arborvitaes.
Yeah.
Would you consider going with all the tall stock, 10 to 12 feet?
Our landscape architect felt that the mixed stock would be appropriate, but if that was, yes, the answer is yes, you could purchase all 10 to 12-foot arborvitaes.
You know, our concern is meeting the regulations,
Mhm.
and regulations call for outdoor storage to be screened, 100% screened. The other concern that I have with the way that they're proposing to park the containers on top of a bituminous curb, you know, if you put a bicycle on a kickstand on bituminous pavement on a 90-degree day, that kickstand is gonna sink into the pavement. I could see that 6-inch bituminous curb very quickly becoming a 2-inch bituminous curb, and therefore creating a drainage issue.
There's the quick response is that there could be pads put on the ground, on the pavement immediately in front of the curb line so that to support that part of the container, so it wouldn't sit on the curb. So that's an alternative.
I would think that if the commission were so inclined to approve this, that would probably be a condition of approval, that they do not bear on the bituminous curb.
Really, we want to keep the curb line in place because the curb line does control the drainage. So putting additional pads in front of the curb line would not be a problem technically.
Your planting scheme for the front entrance shows a white pine off the front corner of the building. Is that existing or proposed?
There is an existing pine up there near the corner of the building.
Okay.
It's probably 15 feet tall.
Yeah, we kind of discourage people from putting in white pines, but if it's there already.
It's been there for some time. It's not being proposed.
I think those were my only concerns. The screening and the curb. Staff, anything?
Well, I don't understand how the curbing, first of all, it's asphalt curbing. If it doesn't have anything backing it up, it's gonna pop out of there so fast, it's just gonna be a mess. So I don't understand what the problem is with paving it. I don't understand how you're gonna put containers down and have a curb running underneath the container. I don't know how you do that. I mean, you're putting the container down, part of it's down on asphalt, part of it's down on crushed stone, and it has a curb in the middle. Things are gonna be, and you're stacking them too high. I mean, that, in my opinion, that's dangerous. I mean, you don't have a solid bearing, and you're gonna be stacking these things on that. I don't understand how you do that.
I posed the question to the operational people at NBC, and they said that they raise the corners of the containers normally up 2 to 4 inches above the ground. There already are pads underneath them.
What do you mean? The container itself has a leg on it?
Yeah,
Okay, so what's the leg gonna sit on?
it's going to sit on the pavement.
And then the other end of it is gonna sit on the crushed stone, right?
That's correct.
So how do you expect to get something that's uniform and then be able to stack it?
Once again, we could put support, there's gonna be approximately 10 feet of the 40-foot container, maybe a little bit less, extending over the curb line. So the vast majority of it's going to be on the pavement.
But it's got 4 legs,
If we
right?
support, yeah, but they're relatively short legs.
So 2 of the legs are gonna be supported by the crushed stone.
Right, but we can also support immediately inside of the curb line, there's a rail along. They're all rail. They have rails and 4 little pods on the corners. So you could put a pad immediately in front of the curb line on the pavement and set that part of support that part of the rear part.
And so how high is the leg?
The legs is it's only high enough so that water can drain underneath it.
Okay, so if you have
In
a,
essence, put a concrete curb in front of the bituminous curb that the side rails of the container are gonna bear on.
why would you do that?
Because if they
Well,
put
first of all, to put
if they
a
put the container in front of the curb, they don't have an access driveway in front of them.
To put a concrete curb in, you have to excavate.
No, they're gonna put pads down, concrete pads down.
Well, even to put a concrete pad, you gotta excavate to put the
They're
pad
gonna
in.
put block down.
And
Block.
and
It counts
even to
as
put
concrete.
blocks down, you have to excavate to make it level, to put blocks in, and you got asphalt curb in front of it that has to sit on a pad. It's not gonna be, I'm just trying to point out that from a cost perspective, let alone a physically getting that done, it makes no sense to me. Why would you do that? I mean, why don't you just saw cut it, take the curb out, and redo it, and put a new curb in, you know, grade it so it's got a 1% slope on it, and your low point is along that line, which is gonna be underneath the boxes.
Well,
So the water will run to the catch basins. You got 4 feet more of asphalt with a pad and a curbing. I mean, you're not talking big money there.
it's not, one of the things that we didn't want to do was add a lot more impervious surface.
Yeah, because you don't want to do stormwater quantity or quality.
And
Why not just
that-
replace the bituminous curb with a poured concrete curb?
That was the reason that, let me just finish my thought because it's going to be gone in a second. That's the reason we wanted to put the crushed stone in, because it's going to be like a pervious trench back there. And I think that made sense to everybody on our previous application.
So actually, what Bill just said makes a lot of sense. You could take out the asphalt curb and put in a poured concrete curb so that the bottom, the back of the unit's gonna sit on the legs, and the front of the unit is going to sit on the curb. It's gonna rest right on the curb, and you're gonna have like a 4-foot overhang, which is gonna be over the crushed stone on the other side. The concrete curb is gonna direct the water into the catch basins, and you're good.
And the reason that we wanted to, there are a couple of things. The curb could be 3 inches tall. It's about, the standard curb height is between 6 and 7 inches. It doesn't have to be as high as it is. It's really used to direct the water to the catch basins. The question came up from staff, how are you going to make sure that the water continues to be directed to the catch basins? And the answer that we came up with was that this would be a viable way of doing it. Keep the curb line in place, continues to do its job, water goes to the catch basins, no increase in impervious surface. It seemed to work logistically as far as we're concerned. NBC doesn't really care if there's a curb in there or not a curb in there. If you go out and look at the site, it's not dead level. It's grade to drain to the catch basin, so there's going to be a little bit. They're going to have to shim the containers anyway, where there are places that it's a little bit of a slope on it, so they're going to have to level them up. But they're used to leveling the containers, so they can do that. We could put any kind of support back there. We could, the concrete curb that's there is not in pristine condition. I was sort of hoping that we could simply place the containers on pads that are 6 inches high, so that it would sort of clear the curb and sit on and rest on the crushed stone behind it. But we could take the curb out and make other modifications. We'd have no objection to doing that. There are, in my opinion, a number of ways that we could facilitate that. I thought the easiest way to assure that the system would continue to operate the way that it currently does is by not changing the system that currently works out there.
Well, if the containers aren't gonna bear on the bituminous curb, it's not an issue.
Okay, I just don't understand how
They're
they're
gonna be
not
sitting
going
on
to.
a pad.
I don't either, but
3/4 of the container's gonna be on a pad.
that's not part of our,
Is that
The
correct?
front corners of the containers are going to be on pads,
And then they're gonna jut out over the curb and
and then it's going to,
jut
yeah.
out over the gravel.
We were talking about putting
They're elevated, they're on track.
pads immediately in front. Here's the curb
The curb's
line.
not on a pad.
No.
You
the
can see,
curb.
you can see the curb line running along here. We're gonna put more support pads in front of the curb so it didn't bear on the curb, and then extend over the gravel that will be replacing turf that's back in this area.
So the back legs over the gravel are not gonna be supported.
The back legs would not necessarily be supported unless they wanted to support them.
Okay.
They could put more pads underneath the rear legs on the gravel if they so chose.
So the curb's not gonna support any weight to
The curb is not a weight-bearing structure.
Okay. That was my concern. What else?
When we had met, we had talked about potential for any changes in lighting and signage, and did any come of that?
There was talk about it when we met with NBC. There's not a formal lease arrangement in place, and they're positive enough about it that they had an architect draw the interior plans to make the interior modifications, but they aren't in a position yet they haven't designed lighting changes. They understand that they'd have to come back with any kind of exterior changes to the HVAC and/or lighting changes or anything else. Signage. They're not proposing any flashy signage, but there was the Economic Development Commission thought it would be nice to have, Monroe, home of NBC Sports, out by the corner, but that's not currently.
They probably don't want to advertise that they're there.
Be able to do their operation, it'll be, they'll be happy to, the people, now they're happy that you guys know that it's them. But they're not, it's not a big commercial. Their facility down in Stamford is very understated. It's not, little tiny signs, NBC Sports Park over here. They're not, looking for a lot of advertising.
Anything else from staff? Now let's see if anyone from the public wants to comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application?
Sure.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Mike Benedetto, 42 Crown Root Drive. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak here. A lot of eyes are on this one. This is NBC. This doesn't come along that often. We need projects like this in this town. In fact, looking at the fiscal irresponsibility in Hartford, we probably need about 4 more just to break even. It's an exciting time. If we get NBC here, I think the residual effect will have a good effect on other potential companies coming to the area. With that said, there's a lot on the table right now, and as a taxpayer in this town, I just wanted to thank you, Mike, because it's evident, it's obvious that you went to the site and actually looked at it. As a taxpayer of the town, I'm not sure if everyone has gone to the site. It's something on the table of this magnitude. I would think that everyone at the P&Z would have already visited the site and checked it out. I'm not sure if everyone has, but Mike, obviously you have. Bill, I know you probably have over there. And with that said, there's a lot on the table here, and I hope we can do what we can do. We can do everything we can to make this actually happen, because I think a lot of people would be disappointed if it didn't happen. With that said, thanks for your time, and look forward to keeping the lines of communication open with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the application? Are there any general questions or comments? Okay. Anything else from commission? Well,
No.
what do you want to do?
It's not a hearing, so it's just, if you don't need any more information, you're just done with this agenda item for now.
Well, I want to know, see if anyone wants to go out and visit the site before we,
Right. That's
I'd
fine.
like to, yeah.
Let's leave it open.
I'd like to go out.
Leave it open.
Okay. Then we'll leave this open and continue it to our next meeting. some of the commission members want to go out and visit the site, take a look at the conditions, and we'll continue on the 20th. 20th? Yes.
Yeah, that's two. Yep, July 20th.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do that after the next one. Don't do it, do that.
Extensions,
So we're gonna wait.
SUB 2016-03, file 1260C, 232 Elm Street subdivision. They are requesting a 90-day extension of their subdivision approval to get the rest of their legal instruments in order. Do we have a motion?
Motion to extend by 90 days, the SUB 2016-03, file number 1260C.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, any discussion? All the roll starting with Leon?
Ambrosi, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Porter, yes.
Lisa, yes?
Riley, yes.
Okay. Item number 10, bond releases of reduction, we have none. Item number 11, modifications, 13-12-SEP and 13-12-SEPA1, file number 1532A, 10 Victoria Drive, modification of approval to permit site work. Anything new on that, Will?
John's here to ask you a question.
Mr. Kimball?
Hello, my name is John Kimball. I live at 1428 Monroe Turnpike here in Monroe. I appreciate the opportunity to address the commission. We're down to the final items. Monday we received an email from DEP that we have gotten our permit to construct. We're waiting for that to show up in the mail. That would take care of our wastewater line item. We've also received email from the state of Connecticut on that all of our proposed easements and land donations to the state, the maps and deeds and forms have all been signed off and approved. So we're in the process of waiting for one subordination from the property we own at 10 Main Street from the lender on that to file the whole package. I've gotten 9 other subordinations, signed all the deeds. I've signed off on everything. We've also, I think, gone through and gotten the town open space conveyance through council. I believe Will's reviewed the documents there, and I believe that everything is in order and acceptable. I have all the subordinations and releases in place for that, so that is ready to be filed immediately. We have a hard date on this deal, that we have to have the site work ready for them and pad delivery no later than December 1st. It was October 30th. That was based on an April start date. Every day that we lose now is, puts us at risk of not hitting that pad delivery date. And for pad delivery, we need all the utilities done around the perimeter of the building. Main site access driveways all the way around the building. We need a 60,000 square foot laydown area prepared, utilities stubbed to within 5 feet of the building. A significant amount of work has to be done. We've got all of our bonds posted with the town, and we've got a $660,000 bond posted with the state for the state highway work. So all of our bonding for both planning and zoning, inland wetlands, and the state is all in place. And as we've done in the past with the commission, you know, the map has to be filed with the state for the state conveyance, which then they confirm to OSTA. We have our OSTA approval, but OSTA can't give us the permit until the map is filed. So, you know, it's basically, we're waiting for papers at this point to pass in the mail, and asking that the commission give us the ability to get in and start putting in soil sediment and erosion control measures, and basically getting the site prepped in advance of having the building permit in hand. Basically give us a short period of time, a short window of time to do that before we have to deliver a building permit to the commission, you know, in order to continue to go on the site. We have already made building permit application and have gone through the entire checklist of building permit items. Those items that are on our list are basically the only outstanding items on the building list at this point. We've gotten our, you know, we had originally 35 items on the building permit list. We're down to make sure your OSTA permit's in hand and make sure your special exception permits and wetlands, you know, permits are buttoned up. So I think we've gotten approval items to the satisfaction of staff, you know, so we're really down to, it's, you know, waiting for papers to come from the state, and if we had them in hand, we wouldn't be here asking for anything at this point. But you know, we're just trying to hit a deadline, and every day that we can get on this, a jump on this project is certainly needed, and it's not any issue with the, you know, the town's been great in terms of being accommodating and trying to get things done as quickly as possible. This is really a hold up at this, you know, more the state level than anything else. I mean, it took the state right-of-way people from December until almost May to comment on right-of-way maps. I mean, the septic permit took almost 3 years, so it's you know, we're not asking it because of any fault of anybody in the town, you know, process. Everybody here has been great to work with, so that's where we are. And I don't know if you can help us out, but that's what we're asking for is you know, anything 30 days, 60 days to basically, it enables us to get a pre-construction meeting, go through everything with the staff, make sure we're all on the same page, you know, and then, you know, we have to just, you know, turn in our building permit within, you know, a time certain. And we have done it in the past with this commission on Mondale, and it worked very well. We got them in, and, you know, they're a very satisfied taxpayer in the town at this point. So we built them a nice building, and, you know, it helped facilitate getting them in earlier, way earlier than we would have been able to get them in otherwise, so.
I'd like to first hear from the staff what concerns they may have.
I think in your packet is an email that I sent to John when he had asked to be put on the agenda.
Right.
And I was just outlining from, at least from the commission's approval, the things that are, which is pretty much what John said already. So that in your packet is that list of what is outstanding from
Right, the
our
5
perspective.
bullet points.
Yeah.
All right, we're starting at the bottom, holding a pre-construction meeting. I guess that would come after all of the other paperwork is in
Yes,
place. SEP resolution and approval and amendments, recording and copying the lot line revision map and warranty deed. John, you said you have that ready to submit?
I have that, and I can deliver that to the town.
All right, recording and copies of all legal instruments associated with Route 25 widening and the DOT encroachment permit. And those are what you're waiting for
Yeah.
I'm basically waiting for you know,
for the mail.
paper in the mail to come back and forth.
So from staff's point of view, what are concerns in allowing Mr. Kimball to go forward at this point?
Okay, I think it's more of a general policy that we're working under at the moment. The concern, this was something that your commission asked us to do, in that what was happening were people were working on sites and they weren't serious about putting in a building. And we ended up with a lot of lots that were mining operations or various, you go up to the park, there's a whole bunch of lots up there that people,
We have various lots that we're dealing with
that people are using
5 or 10 years
for
later.
different
Yeah.
purposes. So you guys asked us to figure out a way to kind of be sure that people are serious about doing something before they're allowed to start the work at the property. The other problem is that with some of these lots that involve wetlands, if work is started ahead of time and then they decide that, oh, it's too expensive, or the economy went bad, or something like that, there's a disturbance in a wetland area that never needed to happen. And, it could go a totally different route in the future. Now, having said that, I also know that there are other situations that may be unique. For instance, this piece of property that he's talking about has already been disturbed. I mean, it's already been cleared and graded and mined or whatever. And so some of those issues go away, and one would look at it and say, well, okay, so if the site has already been worked, what would be the exposure or risk? Because if work starts and then it doesn't progress, you're that one step closer to actually getting it developed. So I could see where there would be some situations where an applicant could come before the commission and request that, you provide a special consideration or something. And so that's kind of where we are. I mean, I know that there's been a couple of lots where that consideration has been granted. And from a staff level, we just need guidance from you. We know what the typical policy is, and if you want to vary from that, this is, I guess, the way to do it, and you would just need to let us know so we can be justified in processing.
I just have one question for John. John, other things that you would initially do, at least in a 30-day, 45-day period, are any of them that would have been subject to the building permit? Because technically, those things can't be authorized without
the things, to answer your question, we can get a jump on putting soil sediment and erosion control measures in place, all of our silt fence, and that, so, that would be a positive in any respect, you know what I mean? So, clearing, grubbing, getting rid of the invasive species on site, things like that. So it's basically, the first step is, and we were so close to a building permit that I hate even being here to ask this, but we have such a limited time frame that every day that we can pick up is very important. I can, but basically what we want to do is general housekeeping on the site, get the place clean. Get the house cleaned up, stage it, and basically go in and get all of our soil sediment erosion control measures. And just even doing that, I believe that by the time we have that work done, we'll have already gotten a building permit, so this will have, it just really gives us the ability to kind of belt and suspenders the site from where it is currently, making what I consider an improvement in terms of, from an environmental standpoint, getting silt fence, silt sacks and things like that straightened away, bring Conrad out, or the town inspector out, make sure that he's good with all that, and then we can start, clearing, grubbing, and kind of getting the site ready. We won't be looking for building permit inspections or foundation inspections or anything like that. So,
And how long do you anticipate before receiving the building permit?
it could be, 10 days. We're hoping to be fully operational and running on that site with permit in hand before the end of the month.
So if you had,
They're
if you were
literally-
limited to 45 days,
It's more than enough time.
that way if there was any little glitch or delay, you're still able to do that preliminary
Right.
work
That would
with
be-
the understanding that anything that you do
Is
is
to
at risk, your own risk, because
Right.
if something through the building permit process changes,
We're totally out of pocket for it, it's at our risk, and the first thing we'll do is our soil sediment erosion controls as our first step. So, you know, and basically kind of belt and suspender the site from where it is today, so.
any feedback from any of the commissioners?
Sounds reasonable to me.
Anything else down at that end?
I don't have any concerns.
There's a couple questions. So this is a request in order to get
It's a request to. he
The
wants
standard
to get-
process.
Correct.
Right.
Standard process is you don't do anything till you have a building permit.
To modify the conditions of approval.
Correct, understood. Scott, the examples that you had about projects starting, there's bonds for that as well, no? Or that's not?
Yeah, the bonds have been posted.
Oh, for ours?
For your-
No, he was asking for other projects, but.
Well, I'm saying there's bonds in place that if the project died for some reason, that,
While they didn't implement the project, they're still using the site, so.
Yeah, but
Fine, they walk away
theoretically,
from
the
this.
town could call the bond,
That-
to your
that's what I'm
point, the
getting at.
town could call the bond and restore the site,
theoretically, I'm saying.
theoretically. Not so easy to
Not so
do.
Understood.
Not so easy.
Town attorneys here. That's a theoretical thing.
Yeah, understood. Okay.
Not so easy to actually do in real
A
life.
little easier to pull the wetlands bond than the P and Z,
Yeah.
but the bonds are for site stabilization and restoration.
Just saying, it's not a direction anybody wants to
And it
go.
would help, it would help if the users aren't there.
Yeah. Okay.
Michael, anything?
No, I have no problem.
All right, well, if the commission is so inclined, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the request for modification, approval to permit site work for up to 45 days.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? Call the roll, starting with Leon.
Ambrosi, yes.
Townsend, yes.
Porter, yes.
Lisa, yes?
Thank you very
I
much.
imagine you're gonna be working there tomorrow?
No, we'll be working there as soon as we work things out with staff and get some kind of
He's got the light stand set up.
a. We'll be working there tonight. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Item number 12, meeting minutes for June 22nd.
There wasn't a errata page in your,
Yes,
packet.
there's a new page 5.
There is?
Yeah,
Separate.
it was on the dais when you came in tonight. It has the yellow on it.
Okay.
What do we have on this one? Porter, Townsend, Ambrosi, Lisi. We don't want to seat somebody for minutes, do we?
No, just you go this one.
All right, as Will pointed out, there was a correction on page 5 under item number 12. The motion was to approve a 2-lot residential subdivision, not to approve a 90-day extension to complete conditions of approval.
Yeah.
Anything else anybody picked up
Well, it says the vote was 4-1.
on
You have
what?
5 people.
Four to vote.
It's 4-0 to 1 because one was
4-0
absent.
and 1
Abstain. Yeah, but you have
abstain.
5 that voted on it.
Yeah, Michael was
Yeah.
absent.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, yeah, there's,
Yeah, no,
Oh,
it doesn't
sorry.
equal out right.
Oh, my God.
I didn't take my shoes off to count.
All right, just approve it with an amendment pursuant to the return of the record of decision, which I have, which we also have on file.
Okay.
So I'll check.
So there will be a correction on the voters on
Vote.
line, on item number 12. Okay,
So,
nothing else?
Everything else is good for me.
Take a
On
motion.
item number 11, it's a similar problem. For the ayes, there are 4. So it should be 4.
Yeah, we have the same thing on 11,
Correct.
Yeah,
an extra
I
person.
didn't pick that one up.
Motion to approve minutes of June 22nd with the amendment to correct items 11 and 12 regarding the voting corrections.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second and a second.
Who made this comment?
Michael? Michael. Any other discussion? Call the roll with, starting with Leon.
Ambrosi, yes.
Townsend, yes.
Porter, yes.
Lisa, yes.
No,
No, Riley absent.
abstain.
Probably shouldn't have seconded.
Application deliberations and determinations. We have a draft for SCP 2017-06, the William E. Wolf Park. This is for the playing fields and the overflow parking lot. And on this one, we have Porter, Townsend, Ambrosi, Lisi, and Lindstrom was seated, but she's absent. We need to seat somebody for this?
No, we stay with the people that were on the.
Okay. My only concern, and I think in reading this it was addressed, is that Mr. Cooper said they're gonna be kind of phasing things. This is one application. They're going to get one certificate of occupancy that covers the 2 new fields and the parking lot. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's one project.
So the fields-
Parking is dependent.
The
The
fields,
fields are dependent on the parking.
right, so the fields don't go into use until the parking lot is complete.
Yeah, oil tank, yeah.
Pardon me?
Like the oil tank.
I'm still working on that.
Yes,
Um,
that is the way, that's the project, the way it works.
Okay. We have a motion?
Motion to approve SCP 2017-06, file number 1589A, 285 East Farm Road, Wolf Park.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
Just a quick question. They mentioned that building being a storage building, but it's really more than that, right? I mean, there's bathrooms in there.
There's bathrooms,
there's
a little
a kitchenette, right?
kitchenette.
Yeah,
It's a party picnic room.
yeah,
That's how they use it.
right,
Yeah.
But it's also the maintenance office.
right. No, I just wanted to be clear that it's more than just a maintenance office or a storage building.
Yeah.
It's, okay.
Yeah, but that building itself isn't part of
Right.
the application. The storage yard is.
Understood, yes.
All right, any further discussion? And we'll call the roll, starting with Leon.
Ambrosi, yes.
Townsend, yes.
Porter, yes.
Lisa, yes.
That's it. The yes have it. Nothing else from tonight that is.
The web circle one,
Pardon me?
can you go right the web?
Oh, yeah, the web circle. Good point. Web circle. Okay, they're modifying the parking. They've given us a design for the proposed pavilion with the concrete slab. Let me start with a motion.
So we're not gonna have a motion.
Huh?
We're gonna have a motion? We have directions to write to them?
You wanna do that? It's a town project. All right, we'll have some discussion, and then we'll give direction for whether we should have an approval or a denial letter.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the sign.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
So,
That was a,
shouldn't they go to the ZBA for that, I suppose?
can't go to ZBA for signs.
More.
Nope, not anymore.
Not anymore, okay. Answers that.
so what happens with the sign?
Is there flexibility because it's been there? for-
It was if they had gotten a sign permit, it could be considered a pre-existing non-conforming sign. They
Okay.
never got a sign permit. So, right now, it's a non-conforming sign. There's no venue for relief for non-conforming signs. And it's not like it's 1 or 2 feet over, it's half again,
It's 50% over.
yeah, it's 50% bigger than is allowed. And
So the old grandfathering in clause is not applicable because it was never approved, is that right?
yeah, it was never permitted to begin with. They never got a permit for the
Right.
sign. If they
Well, they didn't
had,
get a permit for anything. This is all new
That's right,
for
but
the
you're,
first time.
and that's what you're doing, you're approving it retroactively.
Right. Yeah, so the sign just is part of it, isn't it really?
So can we approve the 15 square foot sign
No.
retroactively?
no, we can't. Legally, no, we cannot.
That's my question.
Well, you could approve the rest of the project with the condition that,
Yeah,
They
it could be,
modify the sign.
it could be a condition that the
Sign back.
sign has to be brought into compliance with the current regulations. That would be my recommendation,
yeah.
but I'm only one voice.
Well, I agree with you then.
Yeah, there's no other way around it, so we have to do it that way.
Yeah, I
Take
agree.
customers
There's
away.
there's no alternative.
There's no alternative. You
No
can't do it
alternative.
another way.
Is that right?
Mhm.
No alternative.
If there's
No
no variance,
alternative.
I mean, it's a shame because this is all volunteer work, it's all donation, it's,
You know,
I have had a problem for the 8 years I've been on this commission with the town of Monroe, in general, not following the regulations. And I can't in good conscience sit here and make applicants follow the regulations when the town doesn't. The town is no different than any other applicant. These are our regulations. They gotta follow them. It's that simple.
okay.
Any other input on the sign?
I don't think that was the only issue, I think.
Well, we're not saying they have to replace the sign, they just have to bring it to compliance.
Sign has to conform with the regulations.
Exactly, that's all. We're not saying they can't use it, if they can modify it in some way.
put up a few letters.
I think there's a little bit of extra room on the edge of it.
We were trying to
Change
figure
the
out.
name.
Exactly, you know, cut that end off right there.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Well, they can take
And
the
then maybe
discovery
shorten it
zone
up
off.
on the bottom.
Exactly.
Yeah, you'll make it.
What's that?
They can take the word discovery zone off,
They can take something off of it.
because that's not the town.
All right, so the sign has to be made compliant. I have no problem with the pavilion. I have, they've eliminated the boulders by the parking, which is fine. They have stated that they're putting the landscaping back in. And they have to make sure that the sign goes in the appropriate location.
It's setback, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to just suggest one thing, just for clarification, that it also be contingent on completing the inland wetland agent approval for the activity that happened in that area as well.
Okay. Anything else?
That's about it.
And so they said that the buffer plantings that were originally proposed are back in again.
Correct.
Okay,
But the boulders are out.
but the boulders are out.
All right, so I guess general consensus is that we approval with conditions?
Right. right?
Yes.
Yes.
And is there anything else I'm forgetting? Okay. Regulation review amendment work session. We had a pretty good meeting last week. A few issues that we're looking at right now. We've had applicants come to the subcommittee meeting, which is what we've requested, and I think it's gonna work well because we iron out kinks with some of the issues before coming to a public hearing portion. There was one up for a potential crematorium in the cemetery on Moose Hill Road. We had some discussion about it, and there were a few things that needed to be addressed, such as parking and location. And they were kind of vague in what they were asking for in addition to the crematorium. So we told them that the wording had to be a little more definitive, so that it wasn't turned into like an after-funeral party venue or something, you know. So they're working on that. We had some discussion concerning construction yards, the suitability of construction yards, the location of construction yards, shouldn't we allow them? The owner of the industrial park is looking into some possibilities of maybe rearranging some things up in the construction yard, or in the industrial park, to better accommodate construction yards. So that's still a work in progress. And we talked about tree service and landscaping as an approved use in the I-2 zone. And there again, that required a little tweaking of the proposed amendment, so that's being worked on. Is there anything else, Will?
We also talked about the one that I gave you all at the beginning of the
Timing.
Certificate of zoning compliance timing. This is something that I spoke to Will about, and I asked him to put something together. In our approval letter, we address certificates of zoning compliance, the issuance of certificates of occupancy. And there have been instances where, due to extenuating circumstances, applicants have asked for temporary or conditional certificates of occupancy. Some of them have been granted. Some of them that have been granted, it's a constant struggle to try to get the project completed. So I want to make a little change to that process, whereby if an applicant is requesting a conditional or temporary certificate of occupancy, it's no longer an administrative approval. They have to come back to the commission to request that.
Does planning and zoning issue certificates of occupancy for this building?
Well, certificate of zoning compliance is required to get a certificate of occupancy.
So we were talking about a temporary certificate of zoning compliance that we would issue?
You wouldn't
Yeah,
issue it.
issue.
What you do is, the zoning enforcement officer issues the provisional certificate of zoning certificate to start the work. When the work is all done, he issues a permanent certificate of zoning compliance. And if there's a building, then the building
Then-
department issues a certificate of occupancy for the building. Your approval dictates when those things can happen. So what Bill is suggesting is that, right now, the way the approvals read is they're supposed to finish all the work before they get their certificate of zoning compliance. Yeah, right, because that's when they're in.
But then that's contingent on the certificate of occupation by the building department.
Well, the certificate of occupancy would follow shortly thereafter, usually they're simultaneous,
Yeah,
because they gotta be done with everything in order to be zoning compliant.
right.
So the building has to be occupiable to be
See,
zoning
like in
compliant.
a situation where if someone's building a new building, and let's say it's late November, and the building is up, the binder course is down on the parking lot, the drainage is in, everything is done except the final wearing course on the parking lot. And we get into a deep freeze, it snows, the asphalt plant's closed down. They've got a building that's 95% complete, except for the binder course or the landscaping or
Right,
some other
something.
thing that is
Minor.
minor, and they want to open. Well, technically, they're not supposed to open until they're complete, 100% complete. In practice, they get a temporary or a conditional certificate of zoning compliance and a temporary certificate of occupancy, and they're allowed to open. Where we've run into problems in the past, though, is once they're open,
They never finish.
they never finish. The landscaping doesn't get
Exactly,
done, or, you know, some other portion of the project gets pushed aside and not done.
But that's where the bonds come in again, right? Or no?
No,
No,
No?
because we don't have performance bonds, we have restoration bonds.
If they
I
walk
thought-
away from the site.
the reality of the restoration bonds, and for the town to go through the process of calling in a bond on private property is not simple, and just logistically doesn't happen.
So that's not even on the table
I mean, in the worst case scenario, or someone walks away from the site, yeah, we're gonna go do that kind of thing. But
Yeah, a good example, when Stop and Shop was opening, staff was pressured to give them whatever they needed so they could open. They weren't done. And then the store opened, but there was landscaping issues, there was a guardrail issue along Monroe Turnpike, and it was months fighting with Stop and Shop to try to get them to finish the work.
So how do you deal with it?
So you would like it to come back here then, rather than staff? Is that the
Correct.
change? Okay.
Because that takes the pressure off
Right.
them.
I'll come back to us to.
To request
To
it.
request that, conditional.
yeah, just sort of like John did.
Yeah,
So,
well, the first question is if we're allowing it to begin with. Currently, that's not allowed, right?
No, currently staff is allowing it.
Staff is allowing it.
has the authorization to do that, yes.
Oh, okay, so that does exist currently. No, because you were saying earlier that,
See, it's not,
Can't.
it's not clear, and in order to make it clear, I asked Will to put this together, so that it's clear cut, that if you want an extension, or you want a temporary CO, you come to the commission and request it.
Well, that makes sense.
yeah, that's still not gonna address the issue of, projects not getting completed, whether we allow it or the staff allows it, right?
well, going to the commission is a little higher thing to do, and people may not wanna go here, because, you shouldn't just give it for everything. I mean,
True.
you're not under the same, well, you are, but same political stress that we're under perhaps, but.
I think it's a good idea.
Well, it's an improvement, so I guess.
And the key to that, when you do grant those kind of things, is setting forth a specific schedule that they have to meet, and that they can report back to you by. And, I think people will respect that a little bit more than they do us.
Understood.
I just wanted to note, there were a couple other things in this amendment, and all they're doing is making some of the language relative to the request for extensions and when the plans have to be finalized, indexed to be the same throughout the processes and to do our current practice. So there's really nothing, it's just trying to make language consistent they're not changing anything that we're not doing now, it's just codifying it.
I don't understand this number 3B, any request for an extension?
Yeah, that language is being put in to match the current approval that we already have. All your approvals say that,
So you,
so we're putting it in the code, because it's always better to have the code, when you put it in the approval, it's backed up by the code. This is our current practice, we're just putting it, codifying it.
so it has to be before 45 days prior to the expiration.
Well, you know, it never happens that way, but that's,
Supposedly.
close enough. And the 180 days, it used to be 90, and somewhere along the line, we changed, you know, the commissions have changed it to 180 days because it gave them a little bit more time, and that's what we've been doing, but it's not consistent with the code, so we should change the code to match what your approvals say. And Amendment 5 is just pointing right back to the same language for Amendment 1. So the site plans and the special exception permits follow that same thing.
So, if there's any questions about this, you know, review it more. If you have questions, you know, shoot me an email. But we have to put this to a public hearing, correct?
Right, so I don't know if you're ready to do that now, if you're ready to endorse that now, or you guys need more time, and at the next meeting you want to do that, it's up to you.
Well, let me ask you guys, do you need more time to look this over, or should we put it forward to the public hearing?
I'm fine. I don't need much time. Put it forward. Put it forward.
I'm good.
Okay.
So
I'm
if they
good.
request this, then it can be on the agenda for the next meeting, then it's not going to
No,
be
no,
delayed.
I have, delayed,
Right.
what do you mean?
Well, we hear about that all the time, how there's always delaying that.
This is yours, you're delaying,
This is
if you
not
don't do
gonna
it
be
today,
it.
you're just delaying yourselves, but.
In other words, if I'm coming to you,
There's
I
no
can get
applicant.
you're
No
okay
We're the
today
applicant.
versus, no, I don't mean, I mean this actual document.
Yeah. This is a proposed text amendment that would be by the commission.
I mean, as
So-
it stands now, a
so
builder
good.
can come to you and ask for this permission. You can say, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's not
Now
changing the
it's
status
going
quo.
to just, you're going to put it on the agenda
So you're
for
gonna
the
put-
next meeting.
No. If you all
It's an
endorse it to
applicant.
go to a
Go to a
hearing,
public hearing.
I have to schedule
No,
a public
not this
hearing.
one, I'm talking about
What I'm saying is
the,
that a builder,
Yeah,
we did this.
If a builder wants a temporary CO,
yes, now he
He's
can
gonna
just go
ask that.
to you and get it.
yeah, he's not gonna get it now, because it's July, but yeah.
but yes, yes,
So
technically,
instead of that, you're going to just say, well, I'm gonna put it on the agenda for the next planning and zoning meeting.
It has to come
Oh,
before us.
if, once it's adopted, you mean,
Yeah,
once it's
once it's
adopted,
yeah, raise it.
once it's adopted, if someone requests that, they would have to get it in enough time for it to be on the agenda, and depends on what else is already up before them, whether they can sit on the agenda, but, yeah, it's not gonna go like 3 months later.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
we
That-
want it as soon as
That-
possible.
That's usually a 5 or 10 minute thing, too.
Yeah, so it should go on the next
But-
meeting.
Again,
So-
it depends on what else
But
is
I'm saying,
scheduled.
what happens
How
with
much in
this, is
advance
that
of the agenda
this is
the
all
publishing
coming up
agenda.
to us now to make a decision on this, right?
Yes.
So, what if, I mean, this doesn't open up a can of worms for us, we open the other person and say, okay, for this person, you know what I mean? That doesn't open us up to,
As long as you do it objectively and treat them all the same.
There's gotta be a reason, a good reason.
Yeah, so long as you have so long as there's a good reason for everything you do, you can justify why you did what you did, you have no
Well,
problem.
just to clarify, obviously, we're only, correct me if I'm wrong, we're only approving the zoning component of it, not the building.
Right.
We're not giving them we're not approving the temporary CO for the building permit, right?
No,
we're removing, no,
temporary zoning
No,
compliance.
Because the building department gives
we're
it,
giving, right, the building department,
They-
the
they-
CO.
You know what I'm getting
A
at.
conditional certificate of zoning.
In a way, you're not really
Right.
doing that, you're modifying your condition of approval that there are certain aspects that they have more time to complete before they get the
Yes,
final.
I'm saying, but even if this commission
but I'm saying-
approves that, the building department could say, I have issues with the building,
Yeah.
I'm not giving it
Right.
temporary.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's separate from
That's,
from
yeah,
us.
that's,
Yeah, I
that's
just
on
want
them.
to, yeah, clarify that to the rest of the commission.
all right, we're not gonna have a subcommittee meeting next week because I'm away. So we'll schedule one hopefully for the last week of the month, if that works. Anybody else have anything to report?
No.
Staff, anything to report?
So we're good with this?
Yeah, we didn't resolve it, we don't hear anything?
Yeah.
No, I have nothing to.
Motion to adjourn?
So I can take the thing.